Hey, it's Matt Adair. Welcome to Courage and Clarity, a conversation designed to help leaders get the most out of all that God has given them. I want to talk about your schedule. Your schedule is one of those things that we all know it's important. We all have a calendar. But I think for most of us, our schedule is one of the things that we overlook. And that's a problem because if you don't schedule something, that thing simply isn't going to get done. I think that we have seen and experienced that reality. One of the things that I talk about with a lot of leaders is just the challenge of trying to make time for the most significant parts of their work. The visual I think that happens with a lot of us as leaders is if you can imagine a room that is filled with furniture and somebody gives you an absolutely fantastic piece of furniture that you would want to put in this room, but you simply don't have any room for it. There's nowhere to put it. That's the way we treat our schedule so often. There's a lot of things that are in there, maybe some important things, but maybe there's no room left for anything that's really significant. So we find our schedule being crowded out. We can never find time to get to the work that matters most for us. And so what I want to talk about is a way to really help you reframe and rethink your approach to your schedule. To go back to that visual of the room, what we want to do is that we want to clear everything out of your room. We want to take everything off of your schedule and start with the most significant part of your work. We want to make sure that we're creating space for the work that matters most. And so I want to talk to you about 5 areas of focus where you can simply batch time. You can take 30-minute increments, 1-hour increments. And if you will take these things and put them into your schedule first, then you're going to have a fantastic opportunity to get the work done that you need to get done, not just the urgent stuff. You don't have to simply react to your day, but you can proactively set up a schedule that allows you to get the most significant work that you have. You can get that done, and I want to talk to you about that. So 5 areas of focus, and we're going to take these in ascending order from least important to most important. And the very first area of focus that I think you need to batch, you need to set aside time in your schedule, is for responding to emails. Far too many leaders just leave their inbox open. Their email's always open, and they basically treat their inbox like a to-do list. And so you basically build your day around what comes in via email, what you're sending, what you're responding to. And I think it's a really bad habit in practice because I think we all know that every single email isn't equally important. And just because somebody sends you an email, whether they think it's urgent or not, it might not be the most important work for you. So I want to encourage you to find one 30-minute block a day to respond to email. And not to basically take your entire day to do that. One 30-minute block of email a day and watch what happens over the course of a week, a month, 2 months, 3 months, as you really focus on how you use email to get your best work done, not just the immediate work done. So that's the first area of focus, okay? Make sure you're batching time for your email. The second area of focus is creating processes. Now that can be for big things like sermon preparation. We're going to actually talk about that in just a minute. It can also come down to the way if you have repeated conversations, you're sending out the same emails. Maybe you send an email every week to people who are new to your church or ministry. Well, why would you write the same email from scratch every time? So I really am a strong advocate and proponent of finding one 30-minute block a week to sit down and look at the things that you're doing time and time again, the tasks that you're doing over and over again, the rhythms that are coming into focus day in and day out, week in and week out, and find ways to create templates, to create processes, to create systems that will help you not have to reinvent the wheel and not start from scratch each time. So I think processes are one of those things that a lot of us don't put into motion. Some of us aren't wired for that, and so this is going to be a little bit of work there, but if you'll batch 30 minutes of time there a week, you're going to stay on top of those things that could just be time wasters because you're doing them from scratch over and over again. So email, making sure you create space and batch time for processes that you need to create. Also pay attention to making room so that you can clearly delegate work to other people on your team. At some point in time, every single leader is going to have to make a decision about bringing somebody into their world. That could be another staff person, that could be an assistant, and allow that person to take some of the low value tasks off of your hands so you can spend more and more of your time doing work that's significant. Maybe that's somebody that volunteers time for a couple of hours a week. Maybe you work with a company like Belay, which is a fantastic company that does all of the hiring and training for you. They place a really well-trained, well-assessed assistant to help you 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, maybe even full-time, depending on how much stuff you have going on. For reasonable investment, an assistant can make all the difference in the world to you, but that assistant can't read your mind. And so one of the things I want to encourage you to do is to find the tasks, make clear decisions about what you need to delegate, and then take time to explain what you want done and how you want it done, so that that gap that's there naturally between our expectations and our results gets closed. So you need to make time, not just for email, not just for processes, but also for delegation. Start with a 30-minute block and make that delegation time where you're delegating tasks for the week ahead. Here's the fourth area of focus. We've talked about email, we've talked about processes, we've talked about delegation. Now I want to talk about connecting with other leaders. That might be a phone call, that might be a citywide gathering, that might be a conference. But when we talk about connecting, we talk about networking, so often we just make decisions over what's convenient or where we feel pressure to go. There's a citywide prayer gathering and we feel pressure to show up just because we should, because prayer's a good thing, right? But you need to make sure that you're creating time to intentionally connect with people. So if there is a conference coming up and you feel like it's important not just to receive, but it's a place for you to come and give back. It's a place for you to not just learn, but you can actually invest. You can make connections with people and find ways that you can serve and add value in their world. That's the best kind of networking. That's the best kind of connection when there's kind of a two-way street. There's a kind of a dual relationship that's being formed. But those things aren't just going to happen if you don't make time for it. Far too many pastors, far too many leaders have no room to make the connections they want. And so they live in isolation. They lose opportunities to make a difference in the lives of other leaders because it doesn't get into their calendar. So maybe you're scheduling one lunch a week where you know you're trying to connect with one other leader in your city, and you're going to try to proactively set up that time so you can spend time together. Maybe it's a monthly recurring event in your city you want to be a part of. Make sure that gets on your calendar because it's important, it matters, and that can get crowded out by the tyranny of the urgent in your ministry. Okay, so we've talked about 4 areas of focus, 4 areas that you need to intentionally schedule batch time to get things done. We've talked about your email, we've talked about processes you need to create, we've talked about delegation, we've talked about connecting with other leaders, and now we're going to talk about content creation. Now, for a lot of us as church leaders, this is our sermon preparation. And we all know that you just don't wake up on the weekend, walk up with your Bible and start talking, and that makes a good sermon. We know that there's time that we have to invest in preparation and planning. And so whether that's a blog post, whether it's a sermon, whether it's a video series, whatever it might be, you need to make sure that you prioritize. And I would make this number 1. You need to protect time for you to do the brainstorming, the planning, the preparing, the creation of your content so that it's ready to deliver. You don't just hit play on a camera. You don't just walk up on a stage and start talking. You've got to do the work of preparation. And if you don't protect that time, it's quite likely that you're going to lose that in the process. One of the things that I talk about a lot with leaders is the challenge of being able to get their work done. That's why we're doing this video. One of the things that I think we miss is that in a world where there's so little that we can control, we actually have an unbelievable opportunity to control the outcome of our day by simply controlling our schedule. Instead of reacting to our day, instead of just winging it all through the day, if we will take just these 5 areas, email, processes, delegation, networking, connecting with other leaders, and our content creation, our sermon preparation, if we'll just take those 5 areas, then you and I are going to have an unbelievable opportunity to control our day so that we can focus on the work that matters most. That's going to free us up to be able to be responsive in other areas of our life and ministry. But we're going to be able to do that with confidence because we know we've been able to create time for the work that matters most. So that's our conversation this week. If you have any questions, leave a comment, leave a question, share some of the things that you're learning when it comes to how you prioritize your schedule. Again, thanks so much for our time together and can't wait to see you on the next episode.